Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Circle of Resilience. And today I'm talking to Meg from the USA. Hi.
Hi.
And as always, before I start introducing Meg, we take the time to ground ourselves. So get ready in your seat. You can start rubbing your hands warm. And as always, you can do this quicker to create a little bit of heat, or if you feel like it, you can do it soft. Choose whatever works for you today. I'm going to create some heat. Yeah, I always love to think that this way we can create energy, because heat is energy.
Nice.
So we create the energy through our hands. And then you can use this warmth and energy to put on your body anywhere that you feel, yeah, you want to put a little bit of love or attention or warmth. So take your time finding the places that need it. If you want to, you can close your eyes, but you don't have to. The invitation is to kind of draw your attention inwards, towards your body, into your center. If today you feel like, I want to take my time for this, then maybe put the video on a pause. Maybe touch all parts of your body. Maybe also the parts we sometimes forget, like our ankles or the backs of your knees. If you want to move your hands, you can do that. If you want to keep them still, do whatever you need today. And when you're ready, you can let your hands come to rest, maybe on your lap, or maybe one hand on your heart and one on your belly, on your womb space, to connect yourself. And then we'll take 3 breaths together. And at our first breath, we let everything that is pulling us into everything that's already gone, the past, if it's anything that happened today or yesterday, or maybe even from years ago, let that come up on your inhale. On your exhale, you can slowly breathe it out of your system for now, knowing that you don't need the past right now. And then on your next inhale, gather every thought or feeling or anything that is pulling you into the future or maybe pushing you. So all the shoulds and the coulds or want tos, anything that is triggering your attention into the future, let it come up on your inhale. On your exhale, let it go. If you want to sigh, you can make a sound. If you want to do it through your exhaling in silence, that's fine as well. And then on the last breath we take together, we fully invite ourselves into the present moment. So on your inhale, invite yourself. And on your exhale, maybe sink a little bit deeper in your chair or your couch, wherever you are sitting. Feel yourself grounded. Maybe start to move a little bit before you slowly open your eyes and let the light back in. And then if you want to join us, you can take your candle and we will light it together. So I will light this candle today for this conversation, for Meg and for me, and for everyone who's joining us, who's watching this. And for everyone who is in one way or another connected to our circle. And today, especially, I want to put women into our intention that are mothers. Because one of my good girlfriends gave birth this morning.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so I want to add and honor all women around the world that were lucky enough to become a mother, and maybe also all the women that, even if they, in a physical world, they're not a mother, who are in different ways, in energy ways, or maybe for other kids around them, or maybe a mother to themselves. Yeah, so the mother part of who we are. And then I always ask, Meg, do you want to add anyone or anything to our candle?
I want to add all of my loved ones. There are many, many people that I love very deeply. And I want to add my amazing women's groups, my amazing women's friends who have sustained me and guided me and taught me over the last 4 years. Very, very special to me.
Yes. Yeah. Because we honor the connection that we have, and that they, by doing it together, we fill our cups ourselves. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And then Meg, we didn't know each other before this circle. We got to meet in this session. So just like everyone who is watching, I don't know that much about you, but I got to hear a little bit of your story already. So already knowing this tiny piece, this tiny little bits of your life and who you are already make me feel connected to you. I love how quickly that just instant happens, but also made me already see that you are a resilient woman. And we really wanted to bring you into this circle. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here. I love what you all are doing.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about your life story, and I can imagine that has asked something of your resilience. But for everyone who doesn't know yet, can you tell us a little bit more about, your journey with resilience and how that theme has come up in your life?
Yeah. Well, as I was telling you earlier, I think that I think resilience has been a long time coming for me. It's not something that I touched into when I was much younger. I grew up in a household with an alcoholic parent. It was a very loving family, but it wasn't a safe environment. I didn't feel often that it was safe. And I was sensitive as a child. And so I think it affected me in ways where I kind of shut down. I protected myself as best I could. And so I believe that some of us can connect with that very early in life. And I'm not one of those people. I went through a lot of what I'd call suffering in my life, from getting involved in a corporate career for 36 years and trying to compete and move up in the organization and really play a role that was very different from who I am truly inside. So I didn't feel that I was authentic for all those years, sometimes, but not often. And so as a late bloomer, moving into resilience later in my life is just such a gift to me. And it's been a really fun journey to go through.
Mm. Mm. It's so funny that you start by saying it took a while to get to know resilience, and then you start with a part of your life that to me needs resilience. We cannot survive without these situations, without our strength. But maybe what I love when I think about this, and what I have experienced myself as well, that um, yeah, the kind of things we do to protect ourselves
Yeah.
sometimes can feel like, um, if I phrase it correctly, like you're shutting, you're not showing all of you, and you are protecting the piece that is most valuable to you in your core, and the most authentic way of your being.
Mhm.
But maybe by protecting that, even though it's doesn't feel authentic, is a way, if you want to look at it like that, to be resilient and to survive the suffering that you go through.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
I was protecting that really sacred part of myself, and I was so in my left brain. I was so in my knowledge and my intellect, and it was a way for me to kind of keep people at bay too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yet, I can see the pattern throughout my life where I was really drawn to the spiritual side of life, even as a young child. And but I could only express that really in my own, just with myself mostly, but in a very small circle. And so when I had my coming out, which was later in life, it shocked me, but it was a fabulous journey for me because I felt like I had waited my whole life for this stream to open up, and it finally did. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I like the idea that it's always, that resilience has really always been there, that inner
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I'm not even sure if there's anyone who lives without it. I think
true.
we all are brave people, whatever, story or experiences that we go through. But what I think I'm hearing in what you're saying is that to you, resilience is really about, um, yeah, showing that sacred part of you or your authentic self. So, am I hearing that correctly, or how do you look
It
at
is.
resilience?
It is. I associate it with an awakening, which came to me through a variety of different things that I kind of picked up along the way. Being in nature, I never, before I moved to California, I don't think I was really in nature that much. And out here, you can hike and swim and bike and just be outside all the time. And there's something about going up into the mountains, into the trees and nature that just feeds my soul.
Mm,
And so yeah, I think resilience for me was an awakening. And if I can tell you a story of how that came about, it was as I say, a bit shocking to me. But towards the end of my career, I really, really wanted to show up in a very different way, and I didn't know how to do that. And I thought about it a lot, and I started meditating on it and praying about it, and finally, and I knew, because of my pattern, I knew that as soon as I really asked for help, it was going to show up, and I was afraid to come out, especially in that environment. And so I finally had the courage to just say, I'm ready. I'm ready to show the true me. And I would say a month or so later, I was in bed next to my husband, and I was capturing some information on my phone that I had recorded from a conversation with my spiritual healer. And they were very esoteric, they were very spiritual. They would be absolutely the worst things for me to share in the corporate environment. And so I went to sleep that night. I woke up the next morning, and somehow, some way, it was on an old BlackBerry. I didn't have a mail distribution list. I didn't have names in it. That email went out to 44 people in my company, executives. Somehow it got out, and this whole investigation started. I had to talk to technology to figure out how this could have happened. I was being told by ethics this could just be devastating for the company. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think it was that bad. But what happened from that is, about 6 months later, my husband became very ill. He ended up in the hospital for 11 months. I didn't know how I was going to be able to take care of him. And I had a review that January, and my new boss said, we can't trust you. Not we, the executives can't trust you, which I had no idea what she was talking about. And then later I made the connection. And I was able to ask for everything that I needed. I want my pension, I want this, I want that. And they gave me everything. And so I was able to leave my company, be with my husband for that year, have the medical insurance that we needed, and then move to California and spend this time really focusing myself. So it was such an amazing gift. And yet, as I was going through it, I was devastated. I almost thought I was going to get sick when I found out that it had actually been distributed. So that coming out was so powerful for me. And I've had synchronistic things like that before where it's inexplicable how it happens, but it's my experience and I know it happened. So I love that connection with, some other realm that just has taken care of me throughout my life. As I look back on it, it truly has.
Mm.
It
Wow.
was still coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. It really sounds like, okay, now I'm out in the open and there's no way back. But
That's
sometimes that no way back also, is an encouraging or an invitation, maybe even to say, it's okay.
yeah.
This is where we want you to go, or this is where you belong, or I don't know how to say, but
That's right. And it was a start. It was a start to my awakening. And then it just kept materializing. And when I think about how it all evolved, it kind of takes my breath away because I feel like I'm being cradled, like I'm just being um, so taken care of. I'm in this pattern now that was recommended to me by a friend, and she told me, you're still so distracted. You're still in that very busy, active role that you were in when you were working. You need to just take 2 days and just be very quiet and just do nothing. I mean, every distraction, get up and take it out of your bedroom and just stay there. And I thought, there's no way I can do that. And I did. And it went by very quickly. And it was such an amazing experience for me. And then shortly after those 2 days, I got distracted again. And so that I went into a period of my life that I call going through the fire, which was my daughter and my grandson, my 5-year-old grandson, and my son-in-law moved to Spain, and I had been with them every day for 5 years, and I didn't realize the intensity of my sadness. And I took them to the airport, came home, and I just kept myself busy, just cleaning up and after them and all the things I needed to get done. And that next night, I fell over and I thought I was having a stroke. And I went to the ER. I was dehydrated. I came back and I thought, okay, I'm fine. I got distracted again. I ended up going to the ER a second time a week later, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. It just that I was just falling over, and then other things happened that kept kind of piling on, and I finally got the message: if you keep staying distracted, then we're just going to keep giving you more and more, so that you will have to stop. You'll have to just slow down. And then that's when everything opened up for me. I mean, people came into my life. My fractal group, my soul group started coming in. My opportunity to create this new business, a relationship with a man that I thought would really never happen. It's kind of amazing. Not kind of, it's been incredibly amazing. And I attribute it to my ability to really trust, to surrender, and to have patience as I go through this, which took me really 65 years to figure out. But once it happened, it was transformative, truly. And so you and Marike asking me to participate in this was the perfect timing, because even a year ago, I don't know that I could have really understood resilience the way that I understand it now.
mm, wow. I get this image of kind of like these, we have our path, and it's created once you take the step and once you do the next step. But it almost feels like there's these sparks of, I don't know, beautiful flowers or a pot of gold, I don't know what, but all these tiny pieces that make your whole path, uh yeah, like the gifts that you also were being brave enough to receive, I guess, because for as you said, I've been in my youth, I had a lot of um flus, just flu. It was not
Yeah.
big illness or sickness, but yeah, it's I had to be at home. um and as you said, it were kind of like reminders for my body that you need to stay still, you need to recover, to take rest, to listen to your own rhythm, kind of.
Yes.
um but I was too young to really understand that. Fortunately, I had a mother who um helped me with that. But yeah, what I wanted to say with this is that once you grow older and you become open enough to see that they are gifts, as you said, like the having to leave your company must have felt like, what is happening to me? This is my life.
Yeah.
But then later you can also receive it as a gift that is, yeah, helping you along in life.
Absolutely. I remember when that happened. Um, when I look back on it, I remember thinking to myself, I tried to leave this company so many times, even to the point where I called my HR partner on vacation when she was on vacation, and I said, I know you're getting packages. I'm ready to take a package. And she said, oh no, your role is critical to the company. We can't do that. So I was trying to find ways, but it was my security. My husband was sick. I was the breadwinner, and I just thought there's no way I can leave and try something else. And so the fact that I was pushed out was at first it felt like, oh my gosh, we're really going down hard here. And then it was just, oh, it was sublime, to be able to spend all that time with him and with my grandson, and he was born 4 months after my husband died. So yeah, it's what I've learned about really recognizing this awakening is feeling in my body. I never really, as you say, you have the flu and you're kind of understanding you need to rest, but I just never connected with that. And I was taking care of a disabled sister. I was taking care of other people. I was always kind of the caregiver and not really taking care of myself.
Mm.
And as I say, this distraction. But once I started to understand that my body will tell me when I'm off kilter, will tell me when something is, I really need to pay attention. And now I can feel it all almost immediately. And it's like, okay, and I don't always have to do something about it, but I notice it. So it's that pausing and that noticing, the environment around me and my body internally that has been so helpful to me.
Mm. Yeah, that's exactly the question that popped into my head. So what are the things that help you, or the things that you like to do to also be open enough to see them, or to, yeah, what kind of practices did you start
Well,
doing on this, after your awakening on this path?
yeah, I have to say I was truly blessed when I moved to California because I didn't know anybody here except my family. I ended up living with my daughter and her family for a while until she said, "Okay, mom, you have to leave." And then that night, when I decided, okay, this is the time, I changed the picture on my social media. And immediately, I mean, immediately, someone that I worked with like 32 years earlier sent me a message that said, "Don't tell me you're in my backyard." And I met her that weekend. I ended up living with her for 12, 14 months. And then when she was ready to move, I found this place, which was exactly what I wanted. But somebody said to me recently, "Don't you think that this place was calling you?" Because it was surrounded by these women that I was mentioning who are very, very evolved women, very awakened women, some older than I. And they took me under wing. And so they have taught me these rituals that I have that I'll tell you about. There's one woman who, well, the first woman that I met was my neighbor who lives on this. It is sacred ground. She told me it's like an indigenous tribe lived here at one point, and so she introduced me to the gene keys. by Richard Rudd. And I was able to contemplate and meditate about that for the last 3.5 years. And that changed my life. And we can get into that at some point, or I can put it on your side if you'd like. But the other person was a friend that my neighbor introduced me to, who was an intuitive clairvoyant. And so I started going to her, and she would read my energy. And for 4 years, every time I talked to her, she'd say, "Okay, Meg, so there's dark energy. You're releasing it." And I thought, oh my God, how long do I have to release this stuff? It's like over and over again. I'm waiting for the really, really light energy coming up. And it kind of went back and forth. But then recently I had a reading with her, and she said, "Oh, Meg, you're ready. Do you feel that?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I finally feel that." And she said the last of the dredges has finally come up, and it was, it was ancestral. It was from my mother and four sisters. It was just a lot of my life experiences. And when I was able to let go of a lot of those old beliefs around my anxiety working in corporate life, around my shame, around my grief, my guilt, um, that's when things started coming in. And so another very dear friend said, the one that told me just to spend time by myself, turned into something that I'm very surprised happened. But every night around 3 o'clock, 3 to 4 o'clock, I wake up. And normally I would think, oh my God, I'm not getting enough sleep. But I'm never really tired unless I really go too far. But that's the time for me in the middle of the night just to be very still. And my avatar is Mother Mary. So I talk to her, and and then I listen and I read. Richard Rudd has something called the Seven Sacred Seals, and about suffering is grace and freedom is forgiveness. And so I read those, and then energy starts flowing up and down my body every night. And it used to be it would only flow in my legs, but now it's like my whole body. It's really, I tell people it's like I'm levitating off the bed. It's so strong. And then I cry. I cry every night because I'm so grateful. I'm so in awe of the magnificence of this source that I can't help it. I just get really teary, and it's like a cleansing, and then I start again the next night. So that really is that, and being in nature is really those are the rituals that I have begun, and I'm sure there'll be more. This is relatively new for me, um, but it's exciting. It's really exciting to be there.
I love how there's so much. I don't even know the right words for it, but I I can picture you in your, well, house or bedroom, just letting it happen. It sounds like you're um it's really about allowing,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
having to see or be or have or do anything, but
yeah. There
like,
was a time many years ago when I would talk with my coach um, from work, and one time we both spontaneously were on the phone. She was in California, I was in Washington D.C. We both spontaneously just stood up because the energy was so strong, and we were laughing. It's like, oh my gosh, and but back then it was more of I've got to grab it. I've got to figure out how to get it. I've got to, and now it isn't much more of an allowing, because I can feel it now as I'm talking to you. It's um, it's just being present, in that moment, and being open to whatever it is. And it's like when if I'm set my alarm for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to meditate, inevitably every time the chimes go off, I've just finished something that is significant, and then it goes off. It's like a reminder that my my guides, my whomever is really taking care of me. They're there. They're listening. Every moment they're listening. And I've come to believe that everything that happens in our lives, and I'll speak for myself, everything that happens in my life is for my highest good, whether it is negative, whether I perceive it as negative or positive or whatever. Because if it's really suffering, it's there to help me really learn something that's important, like this whole going through the fire thing. And if it's some long held belief that is not doing me any service, then I welcome that. And to get to the point where you can actually welcome something that is going to be painful or challenging, that too is a gift, because it allows you to maintain this balance as you go through life,
Mm.
knowing that you're always taken care of. And oh boy, that's what a lesson that's been for me.
Hmm. Yeah, and maybe for all of us, or at least a lot of what you're saying, I'm, I'm triggered. I'm recognizing so much of what you say about more and more realizing that you are guided. That there's, we're. I have this teacher who told me. Let me see if I can translate that real quick. Um, you will never fall out of oneness, about the unity we are. You can never fall out of that. You're always part of that.
Absolutely.
This huge trust of, yeah, I'm being guided. And even though I move through, as you said, things or situations that we don't like, or we, as I can imagine, sometimes I bump my head to a belief that I think, oh, I've seen this one, I know this one, and why am I hitting my head again? Like this, as you said, oh, when is the light
Yeah,
stuff coming up?
yeah.
Um, um, I totally lost my sentence, but um, I can also understand and recognize that, but at the same time, knowing that it's all for the good of ourselves, for
Ab-
learning from it and getting to see things because of it. Yeah.
yeah, I think so much of the fear that I had when I was younger, well, even into my later years, was around this perceived notion of who I am. I wanted people to see a certain a certain persona, and it wasn't really who I was. I came to understand, and the idea of losing friends, of losing even acquaintances that I felt very close to, was scary to me. But I realized that if I was really going to come out and be the person that I knew intuitively I was going to have to shed some of that old life, and that's what's happened. I've lost some friends, I've lost some groups, I've walked away from some groups. But in that space, these other people have walked in, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is my tribe, and I never anticipated that. I mean, the fact that I would have met you and Marike and Lynn Twist and this Awakening Women's Group and my original women's group and all these amazing women, they came in when I was ready, and they all pretty much hold my feet to the fire in terms of you've got to be authentic in who you are. And and the more that I do that, the more I realize my reason for being here, I think very clearly, is for me to make the spiritual real for people. And so for some of those people who I was feeling like I was moving away from, have actually come back, because when they have seen what has happened to me, it's like, whoa, I would like to have some of that. And so then, as as um, as skeptical as they have been, and like people truly in good nature, but have laughed at me, like, what the hell are you talking about? Somebody's going to come into your life, and yeah, and then it starts happening. It's like, whoa, okay. And so now they want to know how to do that, and that to me is, oh, it's been so much fun to connect with these people I've known for a while in a very different way, on a different level. And I feel like I don't have to masquerade around anymore. I don't have to over prepare for fear that I'm going to say something wrong. Um, I can just kind of go with the flow, and once you're in that flow, you don't want to get out of that flow. Um, and so that is what drives me, is to stay in the river of life. to be very focused on what I'm learning and my guidance. And if I, I've used this analogy before. Somebody actually shared it with me, but um, with others. If I get out of the river and I go up on the bank, that's when my ego comes in. And, a good friend of mine said, if you go up there, then people are going to want to like hang on to you. I've been a caregiver all this time, and suddenly people are seeing, and then yeah, I want that. You don't want to go up there. You want to stay right in that, all of those rituals that you do, all of that time you spend really kind of being with yourself and understanding yourself. Stay there as much as you can. Stay there. So that's really helped. It's kept me in good stead.
Stay in the river of life. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can already start to hear some different practices. Maybe I've heard you say time in nature. I've heard you say a little bit about being still or taking the time to go inward, something like that.
Yeah.
Connection is a big one, if I understand correctly.
Oh,
Connecting to the people that are showing up in your life right now,
yeah.
being grateful. I can already start to hear some little nuggets of advice or practices that help you.
I guess another one would be, you mentioned this in the beginning when we were talking, this whole notion of self-care. I've run at such a pace most of my life that, I mean, there were days, like I remember one morning my husband came into our bedroom before work, and I had the covers literally over my head. I couldn't move. I think I was having a panic attack. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I can't do this anymore. It's just, it's too much. And so I think when I let go of trying to take care of everybody, when I set really clear boundaries around my life, that was really hard for me to do. Um, then I recognized I've got to make sure that I'm okay. And I take naps now, not every day, but when I'm tired, I'll take a nap. I love to get massages. I just love to take care of my body, and that's helped me a lot too.
Yeah, so valuing yourself or your energy enough to know I will take this time for me
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well as I take care of others.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I love your notion. I don't know if you've told your audience about your symbol, um,
Yeah,
but
we did the
you,
9 ways to well-being.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And I don't know all of them yet, but I'm sure all of those nine somehow play into
Yeah.
what's happening with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my wish for everybody really is just to trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. If I had listened to me talking when I was in my 20s or 30s, I would say, "Oh yeah, that all sounds nice," but I'm dealing with a lot of other crazy stuff, which I was. But it's you just have to really trust that you are where you're supposed to be, and you're learning. You need to learn in this lifetime, and if you stay centered, if you stay centered with your source and your intuitive nature, it's bound to happen. It's bound to allow you to awaken to something that is beyond words.
And what is your way to come back to yourself or stay in the river of life? I really love those words. Or yeah, what is your way of doing that, of staying there? Or yeah.
I have to say, the last years that I've been studying the gene keys, and that is about epigenetics. Really, it's about really understanding your profile, your DNA, and your gifts, and where you go into your shadows or your fearful state, and how you can pull yourself out. All of that is kind of tied into this notion of contemplation and pausing and noticing. And it's not just the gene keys that's taught me that, but a number of other spiritual guides have said the same thing to me. Meg, if you can envision that you're in a world that's completely pitch dark, and you're going to work in the pitch dark, and you're sleeping in the pitch dark, and it's always dark. And then at one point, there's this just like this pinprick of light that comes through, and you notice. And then, a week later, you notice another pinprick. It's suddenly, as you stop, like if you're at your kitchen sink, I look out my window to this beautiful mountain, and there's one tree in particular I kind of focus on, and it helps bring me back to, oh, that's a point of light. I've got to remember not to stay distracted, but to come within. And so the more that you can pause and just be curious about what's happening, not to judge it one way or another, not to get emotional about it, but just to say, oh, I'm curious, what is happening here? Then contemplate, meaning just sitting and not using your mind, but just allowing your emotions, your body to just kind of feel into what it is. It brings me back to my center, my core. And it took me a long time to settle my mind to be able to do that. But I remember when I first started meditating, I couldn't, I just couldn't still my mind. And what I've come to understand is it doesn't matter, just as long as you just sit there. It doesn't matter if your mind's going all over the place. Eventually, you'll start to kind of drop in. And so
Mm.
those are some of the things that I do.
Yeah, I love this. I love a lot of things. If I listen to myself, I only hear myself say I love, I love, I love. But I do. I love hearing this because it sounds like through your life, you've been running and being busy and yeah, trying to protect yourself, as we said. And then the other part of that same medallion is stillness or contemplation or whatever word you want to use. And then by having both sides, you remember that, yeah, again, you're one, or we're part of the bigger whole. Maybe that's where your trust, that's a thought that comes up. Maybe that's where our trust is, by seeing that there's both light and dark, or there's both running and standing still, there's both all these opposites that we can define. By seeing that they're both there, we come, that's where our center is, right?
Absolutely. I totally believe that. And when you think about this whole notion of suffering being grace, if it was all unidimensional, if you didn't have the dark with light, you would have no reason to try and reach out and understand and ask for help and try and right your ship. It would be it would just come to you and everything would be fine. But the idea is, when you suffer, when you are out of balance, that is when you ask the divine, if you're going to, for help. Um, and I feel like there's a reason. I believe we're all born with this core wound, um, and um, and then as we go through life, through building our intellect, our emotion, our bodies, it just, these other sanskaras, these other kind of wounds are kind of layered on top. And so to realize that we're all wounded children underneath has really helped me look at other people in a very different way. I used to be, I think, pretty judgmental, um, and and I didn't like that about myself. But the more that I connected with this unity, as you say, that we're all just, as I can't remember who said it, we're all just kind of walking each other home, which I love. And so we're all one, truly, and we're in these bodies to experience this life, and I believe life after life, to continue to deal with whatever the karmic energy is that we need to grow through. And so yeah, I love the idea of the medallion, and yeah,
Yeah.
the both sides of it.
And how we're all walking each other home. Yeah, that's exactly why we brought this circle into the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
To remember that's all we have to do. We just have to share our experiences, our stories, our gifts, our shadow sides, all of it. When once we share it, that's how we remind each other and invite each other to, yeah, come back to your own center, and therefore
Yeah,
are
yeah.
connected to the bigger part. Yeah.
And I was so afraid to share that part, especially the shadow part. I was so afraid to let people know that I had anxiety, that I got depressed, that I had a panic attack, that, all of that. I was mortified that anybody would know that about me. But once I started sharing it, that's when people really came in, when I really felt connection with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you all are doing is, I hope the circle keeps expanding, 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 because we need this kind of consciousness in the world. And I know there's so many other people that are doing it. As we all start to kind of coalesce and come together, I envision we'll go through a lot of the fire, continue to do that for a long period of time, undoubtedly, but we're moving in a direction that is just so exciting right now. And it's like spun up, it's happening really fast now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're in this flow, you can feel that. And so I just think it's a fantastic time to be alive right now. I really do.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much already for all that you've shared.
Oh, you're welcome.
Um, and maybe, I don't know if you feel like there's something we didn't touch on that you still want to share or
I,
to
I feel
people.
pretty complete. I think I'm okay.
Then maybe it's time to move into the exercise that you would love to share with people.
Hmm.
Is there anything that comes up?
Yeah, there is. There's something that I started a while ago, and I worked in corporate life, so acronyms were kind of in my blood, right? And so I think of this notion of a teaspoon, a TSP. And so when I think of, like, if I go in for something and I pull out my teaspoon, I think of trust, I think of surrender, and I think of patience. And the trusting part I get from my contemplation, from my waking up in the middle of the night, from my being still and feeling, the energy moving through my body. The surrender part is realizing that truly I am being lived through. I don't really even have to make decisions in the morning when I wake up. It's like my body will tell me, what's happening. If I get out of my head, it really will. And if I surrender to the flow of life, it will always take me where I'm supposed to be going. And then the patience is that it doesn't necessarily show up in my time frame. If you truly believe there is no time or space, then it's like when it's right, it's right. And I've experienced that so many times that I know the right groups are coming in, the right experiences are coming in. And so I guess my ritual would be just to take the time to to go within and learn about yourself, learn about we all have amazing intuition. All of these women around me have shown me, these spiritual guides have shown me that the gifts that they have, we all have within us. It's just that we don't trust it. And the healing power of, of who we are and the capabilities that we have are so prevalent, but there are only a few, I think, that have tapped into it. So the only way I think you get there is to trust, to surrender, and have patience. And so that's kind of where I go.
TSP. I will definitely put that in my journal. I can
Okay.
already see this image of a tablespoon and then trust, surrendering, patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Good.
yeah. And are there, because I can imagine people listening to this thinking, yeah, 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 I like that. I get that. But how? How do I do this? Is there any maybe questions you can give us to contemplate on, or yeah, little um, hints of how people can, how do we trust, surrender, and have patience? How could we do that?
Ah, let's see.
Just to give you a simple question.
Wow. Well, of course I can only speak for myself, but I would say be as quiet as you can for as long as you can. Um, and find a spot. If it calls to you, find a spot in nature. Put your feet on the ground. There's so much wisdom in the soil of this earth, um, and or in the ocean, and let your body just kind of feel that. Um, the surrendering part is always understanding that you're being held. You're being held, and if you just allow yourself to trust in that surrender, uh, and just watch and see what happens, it really starts. And the patience is the patience for me is allowing myself not to go in the future and not stay in the past, but just know that if I continue to stay in the moment as best I can, that it will grow from moment to moment, and then kind of just let it go. Just give it up to source and let it, just know that it when the timing is right, it will come. I don't know if that gives you specifically what you're looking for,
Mm.
but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a combination of using nature, letting nature help you and be reminded. I think for a lot of people, I have never heard anyone who said, I don't really feel, I don't like nature. Or maybe there are people, but people who are conscious and choosing this kind of path or living way of life,
Mhm.
they all feel how nature mirrors us in our
Yeah,
patience, in our trust, in our surrendering.
yeah.
um yeah, so to me, I can show show you my picture of my tablespoon. I will I will take my time later to make it into a, or maybe I will, for everyone at home who thinks I don't want to draw a tablespoon, maybe we can find a Google or in a magazine, rip out a tablespoon. Yeah, and
Can
then
I, may I add one other thing?
yeah.
One ritual that a friend said to me when, well, actually, it was this intuitive clairvoyant who said, Meg, you're very ready. You need to go into nature and forgive yourself. And I wasn't quite sure what she was saying in the beginning, and she said, forgive yourself for not shining your light in the world. And she said, I think you'll know what that means when wherever you're going, you'll discover that. And so I did. I hiked up to the top of a mountain in the headlands here, and I just went back from the very beginning of my life, my earliest memory, and I just kept thinking, what do I have to forgive myself for? And I've done a lot of work, so it didn't come until later in my life, and there was like, oh yes, I need to forgive myself for the guilt that I had about not being there for my husband at the very end, and that kind of thing. And I think if you can forgive yourself for whatever you feel is some behavior or some experience that you're not proud of, or you didn't feel you deserved, or whatever it is, that forgiveness just frees you up for a lot of things. And when after I did that, that is when people started coming in. So
Mm,
just another idea.
yeah. Forgive yourself. I love this song. For anyone, we made a playlist for the Circle of Resilience, and one of the songs I put in is called "I Will Be," or no, that's what she sings is "I will be gentle with myself."
Yes, yes.
I will, I will, yeah, like you said, I will
Be
say
gentle.
it's okay. I
Yeah,
can hold myself. It's, even though I didn't do the things that I thought I should be doing, or made mistakes, or yeah,
yeah,
we can forgive ourselves for whatever
exactly.
we think. Yeah.
So yes, be gentle with yourself. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So maybe for everyone who feels like, yeah, I'm not sure yet, but, and what I also love about what you're telling us is that it's also about trusting that you can do this.
Yeah.
It sounds like these big words of trust, of surrendering, of patience. It's, our minds can start to wonder how, but
Yeah.
what I love about what you're telling us is that it's also exactly about trusting that you are capable of doing that. And it might take time, it might take a whole life of practicing before you feel, oh, now I know what she meant.
Oh, thank you for clarifying.
Fine.
That is exactly right. It is not just trusting in the source that you're going to be well taken care of, but it's trusting in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
distinction. Yeah.
So maybe we don't have to know how to practice this. But if you feel like, how do I do this? Maybe just listen to that song, close your eyes, and sit. Be
Yeah.
still, listen to the lyrics, and feel whatever comes up. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
And if you're like me, draw a tablespoon. TSC, I love it. I love, I can never forget the tablespoon.
Well,
I
I,
always,
I often don't remember things, so I have to kind of figure out how can I
yeah,
make that connection. It's like, oh yes, that's it.
yeah, yeah. Whenever I'm in my kitchen or stirring in my coffee, I will remember trust, surrender, patience. Yeah. Thank you so much, Meg, for this
No, thank you so much.
truly amazing talk.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thanks everyone who is with us, who is listening, watching, and soaking it all in. And as we said in the beginning, I love how by taking the time for this and by sharing these conversations, we will light up the world and everyone will, yeah, do that for their own, you know. You will maybe tell someone about this tablespoon in your life, and that's how we, yeah, kind of create this beautiful, immense, um, like oil, right? Spreading through our lives, basically. Yeah. So thank you for adding this to our circle.